Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Andrew Musgrove, joined by Aaron Stokes. The Premier League season is fast approaching and Newcastle United have their final warm-up game for the new campaign this weekend with the Sela Cup at St James's Park. 2 games for the men's team and 1 for the women's side. It will hopefully be a great weekend of football. Toon boss Eddie Howe held his press conference ahead of the game and Aaron was lucky enough to be there. Plus, there's been a new arrival. William Osula has finally been confirmed as a Newcastle United player. We'll get into the final details in a moment. Please hit like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on an audio channel, thank you as always. Please do leave us a rating and review. Let's get on with the show. Aaron, welcome back. You well?
Very well, yes. Got my first glimpse of Newcastle's brand new media suite today. It's where the Northumberland FA used to be, and very nice, very stuffy, quite warm this morning. But very good to speak to Howe, speak to Bruno, and it's just whetted the appetite, not just for this weekend, but for the start of the Premier League.
I think what you need to do for people who aren't aware, I think you need to paint a picture of the media room that was, and then what is there now. Why is there such a difference?
Well, the media room as was has pretty much been the media room since Mike Ashley days. There's been very little changes to it, whereas this one, it's obviously moved slightly down the road and it's all modern. We've got desks now rather than just chairs with laptops on knees, microphones. So
Microphones is the big one.
Anybody who listens to the press conferences will be glad to know the journalists now have microphones in front of them. And there was also this very big whiteboard on the screen, interactive whiteboard, which had the logos and the sponsors on. And just before Eddie Howe came out, the interactive board went off that screen and went onto the home screen because Darren Eales was actually calling on a WhatsApp call. So we just had on the screen Darren Eales' WhatsApp call, big photo of his face, and we were really tempted to answer it so that we could just ask him what the crack was with transfers, but we didn't. And there was also actually a folder in the top right corner of the home screen that said Newcastle United summer transfers. So, yeah, that's a little insight into some of the.
I think it was a bit of a test. They were just testing you guys.
Testing to see our loyalty, and I think we passed. So we're all in the good books, thankfully.
Some new sponsors, it looks like, with Newcastle United that were on that board. Did you notice any?
Yeah, we noticed a couple of Italian-based sponsors, and also Konami, who you'll remember famously sponsored Pro Evolution. They've also been involved with the recent Japan trip. So yeah, I mean those 3 not announced by the club just yet,
but clearly they're on the board. Alongside Fun 88 as well, still there. So that's hopefully bringing in a little bit extra revenue. I think what we're all interested in, refreshments for the journalists, because I remember back in the old days where there was this rackety old vending machine in the back left of the room and they actually had to switch it off during press conferences because it made such a noise. What was there today?
No, nothing there today.
Nothing? No tea?
Yeah, no tea, no water, no coffee. So I think we probably would have taken the old rackety vending machine, but no, nothing there. We were there for business, not pleasure. They can't be giving us refreshments. We're there with a job to do, and hopefully we did it.
Well, talking of refreshments, I had a lovely Brack burger for dinner up at the Stack. Arguably the best burger in the Northeast. Let me know in the comments if you think there's a better place to get your burgers. But I have to say, I've been wanting to try this for a long time, and it did not disappoint. Up at the Stack, people queuing before the doors opened. I absolutely love the fact that Newcastle United fans will queue for anything. I love it. And I'm one myself before anyone gets on me back and says I'm having a go. Yeah, I'm not. I do love the fact, though, that there was dozens of people there. And inside, it looks such a nice venue.
Looks amazing, doesn't it?
It's done such a good job with it. Doesn't look like there was any teething problems. Everything looked finished, spick and span. What I like the fact is that I think there was a fear that they might have rushed it to get it open for this weekend, but everything looked really good. So really good to see the doors open. I can't wait to see what it's like on a match day.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously I haven't had the chance to go up and see it yet, but from the photos and videos I've seen, it looks really slick, looks really good. We've got an interview with Peter Silverstone on our website. Lee Ryder spoke to him at the Stack earlier today. And we've also spoken to Brad Miller, the new one of the new board members at Newcastle. That'll be coming out next week. They're very happy with it. Darren Eales was obviously there cutting the ribbon. And I think they're going to take a lot of money there over the next 2 days, certainly, aren't they?
What I'm interested in, I haven't read the interview admittedly with Peter Silverstone. I would like to know the percentages of the deal, because obviously it's the Stack in partnership with Stella at St James's Park. But I would love to know the breakdown of who takes what home, because we're all sitting here saying this is really good commercially for Newcastle United, but it would be so interesting to actually get the percentages. Maybe that's something we'll be able to find out and bring you guys over the next few weeks. But yeah, Down Heels, do you want to know what you went for?
I do, yeah, really.
You went for a Blackburger as well?
Did he? Oh, he's a man of good taste.
Had a little quick chat with our colleague over on the What's On desk, Barbara, and then that was interrupted because he said, there's me buzzer's going, I've got to go and get me burger, and off he went. But yeah, lots of people there enjoying themselves. It will be a fantastic venue, not just for Newcastle United, but the city as well. We'll start with the news that William Osula is finally a Newcastle United player. It's not officially confirmed how long his deal is, but it's believed to be a 5-year contract. 21-year-old has cost Newcastle United at least 10 million. Some reports put it at 15, but the club, as you would expect, they put down it as an undisclosed fee. Really winds me up when clubs do that. Just let us know how much you've paid. But anyway, regardless, he's arrived just in time for the Sela Cup. Hopefully we get to see him. You in the press conference, as we've said, with Eddie Howe today. What did he have to say about the young man?
Well, I mean, just before I go into what Eddie Howe said, it was typical Newcastle that we were all sort of sat waiting for Eddie Howe. It was a couple of minutes until he was scheduled to come out at 9 a.m. and the club dropped the news at 8:58. I think they dropped the news that he'd signed. So they didn't make it easy for us to announce it. But also it was good that they did announce it then, because it meant that we could put the questions to Eddie Howe instead of getting the typical answers of, it's not done yet, I can't really say much. We got some really good, deep answers, some really good understanding as to why Newcastle went for the deal, what Eddie Howe sees in him, how it came about. And what was clear was that it wasn't a deal that has just came out of the blue. This is a deal that they've been working on for years. Eddie Howe talked about how it was a deal 3 years in the making. And that relates to the fact that Jason Tindall back in 2021 was obviously Sheffield United assistant manager. He knew Osula from his time at Bramall Lane. And he's obviously came back to Newcastle, reunited with Eddie Howe, and has relayed all the positive things about him. Eddie Howe speaks very positively of him. He also speaks very much about what his role is going to be, and that is going to be behind Callum Wilson, behind Alexander Isak. And he also talks about how there's a lot of work to do. He's a very raw, there's areas of his game that needs to develop. So there's clearly an understanding there from how that they're signing a player who could be very good, but he needs a lot of work before he gets to that stage. But that is something that Howe relishes when signing players.
The quote from Eddie Howe on that is as follows. It's a very tricky situation. We have two outstanding centre forwards, and to find someone to complement them isn't easy. To find a young striker to develop, he won't have two better to learn from. Coming to a healthy environment financially has to work for us as well. It's a good deal for us. We've got a lot of work to do with him, but he's a good character. And that kind of just sums up the issue that we've been speaking about for many, many months. How were they going to get that third striker in because of the two that would initially be in front of him?
Yeah, and I think just further to those comments that he made, somebody asked him, is this the deal that you've needed really since Chris Wood left? Have you needed someone who has been happy to essentially play a third choice? And Eddie Howe said it's a very difficult position to fill because you want someone who is good enough to play, but the attacking players always cost more. We couldn't commit a huge amount to that position. Now, that was something that Eddie Howe spoke about at a number of different stages of today's press conference. He spoke about how they're really happy with the deal they've done for Osula and how much it's cost them. Now, as you say, it's undisclosed, but we understand that it's around 10 million initially, with 5 million in potential add-ons over the next couple of years. And Eddie Howe is essentially saying, we're absolutely fine paying that for a third choice striker, for someone who's young, who's got loads of potential, because as we're going to go on to talk about later in the episode, there's still real pressure about what Newcastle can't spend this summer. The positions that they really need to strengthen elsewhere, right wing, centre back, and potential outgoings that are going to obviously help them sign players. So they've got a young striker in, they haven't broke the bank doing it. Now attention turns to getting bigger signings in, more expensive signings in at other stages of the squad.
It's just a sensible deal, and it's just a kind of a nod to where Newcastle United are at right now. Of course, we want to be fighting for the Premier League title. We want to be in the Champions League, but that's not where Newcastle United are right now. It's about building a squad, and Osula will hopefully become an integral part of that. And I love this line from Eddie Howe. He says areas of his game to develop, but he's coming to the right place to do that. It's that last bit of that sentence I absolutely love. The confidence Eddie Howe has got in himself and in his coaching staff to get a player who he described himself as being raw and turn him into this Premier League force.
Well, a lot of people have made the joke that they're signing a striker who can't score goals, and maybe in a couple of years he'd become one of the best box-to-box midfielders the league has ever seen, because that's what usually happens with Newcastle. But I thought it was really telling what Eddie Howe was saying about Osula. He wasn't saying, he wasn't sugarcoating it, saying they've signed a ready-made goal-scoring forward. He was saying we've signed somebody who could become really good, but we are going to have to make him really good. He's going to have to learn from Alexander Isak. He's going to have to learn from Callum Wilson. And as he says, there's hardly two better Premier League strikers to learn from than those two. So very exciting. I think we'll see him this weekend. He's been playing in pre-season. He's clearly up to speed. Hopefully he's over that slight concussion that he suffered last month. And look, I know it's not the big shiny new signing, but at least we're going to see somebody at the Sela Cup who we haven't seen in Japan already. So
yeah, just a new name, a new face. Osula said, "I'm very happy to be here. It's a big club, a great club. So I'm very happy for the opportunity to join Newcastle United. It's a great opportunity. And as soon as I heard about Newcastle interest, I knew I had to take the chance to join this club. If it came, it has come. And I'm really happy to be here." I mean, he will not be naive to his own goal scoring record. He knows that this is a massive opportunity. He's at a bit of a crossroads. It either works or it doesn't. If it works, he becomes a hero, potentially becomes a first team player in a Premier League side that hopefully is going places. He will know he'll have to knuckle down. He'll have to listen. He'll have to take everything on the chin, and he'll just have to work hard. And just if he does that, Newcastle United fans will give him full support, but I think he'll be well aware of the chance that awaits him.
Yeah, but I also think Eddie Howe today was he didn't outright say it, but I think he said in a roundabout way that Callum Wilson is here to stay, and he suspects that Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson are going to do the very heavy load in this season, injury permitting, and Osula is essentially the man to pick up the pieces when Callum Wilson or Isak drops out. Howe said on it, with Alex and Callum hopefully both being fit for the majority of the season and carrying that attacking load together, then when you have that sum of money to spend, you're logically not going to spend a huge sum in that position when you have other positions that require a bit more investment. It's a very difficult balance. We'll try to get it right. And then he goes to talk on about some outgoing. So I think Osula, as we said, it's a really difficult position to sign, because you are saying to them, you are going to be third choice at this football club. And not a lot of strikers will want to do that. But Osula knows that he's taken a big step up from the Championship to the Premier League. He's working with a fantastic manager, a club going places, and in the years to come, he'll hopefully get chances in the first team.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But I can hear our listeners screaming at you, Aaron, saying, "Don't let Callum Wilson do any heavy lifting."
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want to move in any boxes or anything, because goodness knows what will happen. On to Bruno then, because he was in the room.
We haven't even said that yet. Bruno was
for
those
in the room.
Listeners and the audience watching, Bruno was also sat by Eddie Howe as well. We weren't just talking to how we were asking a lot of questions of Bruno as well, who was, can I just say, on fantastic form. He was on brilliant form. Cracking jokes, smile on his face. He had Eddie Howe in hysterics with some of his answers. And Lee Ryder alluded to this in one of the videos he did and one of the pieces he did earlier. He spoke like a man who was very happy and not going anywhere, which is really good to see.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think, reading between the lines, I think he's Newcastle United's captain.
We spoke about it on Monday, didn't we? With Lascelles out injured, with Trippier potentially going, with Dan Burn potentially losing the spot, there's a big role there for a captain. And Eddie Howe's got this leadership group behind the scenes with those three players I've mentioned, plus Callum Wilson, who's obviously had the armband in the past. Matt Ritchie's left, a space has opened up, and Bruno, they've said, it's yours. He's the only non-English player in that group now, but Eddie Howe's seen enough of him to say, you're a leader, and Bruno spoke about that today as well.
And he was asked about his future, and he said, I don't get involved with anything. My agent has that. I know nothing about it. I'm focused on Newcastle. I'm very happy. The gaffer has given me a big responsibility to be in the leadership group. I want to help this guy. Since I've been here, he's developed my game. I have to deliver something special for him. Now, it's the words big responsibility, obviously, as you say, added that leadership group. But there's just something about the way he's spoken, about what he's said, and obviously we've seen it as well in that game in Japan. I do think he will be wearing the armband come the Southampton game.
Yeah, look, I think it's very, very possible. I think I know we'll speak about it later with its own segment, but I think that there's a lot of uncertainty as to whether Kieran Trippier is going to be at the club this time next month, and I think that presents a massive opportunity for Bruno, who is relishing that opportunity to potentially take a big step up. He spoke this morning about how he's been a leader at all his clubs. It's been a bit difficult for him because of his English here, but he wants to be a leader. He wants to be a big name. He wants to be a big force. He wants to help the club, and I think we'll see that from him this season.
He certainly sounds like a very happy man. He says, I want to put my name in the club's history. Nothing has changed. I want to win some trophies. I said I wanted to play Champions League football, and everyone said I was crazy. We have worked hard so far. This is still my dream. And he also added that he's feeling better. He said, on my first day, I thought I would pass away. I was really tired after traveling to Japan, but today I feel all right. I've been training all week. I can't wait to start the season. It's going to be a big season for the club. He sounds focused and he sounds absolutely eager to go.
And just another quote that he said about being a leader. He said, the leader isn't just someone who wears the armband, but the person who fights for the club in many, many ways. For example, I only missed one game last season. 64 games last season. It was a crazy campaign for him. I've been captain at Atletico Paranaense, Brazilian youth teams, and at Leon. The gaffer has given me a big responsibility, and I want to deliver something for him. So, as I say, a man who, if there was any lingering doubt, which I don't think there was, Bruno is here to stay. And as you say, I think he could be captain first game of the season.
Yeah, and Howe, of course, asked about Bruno's future, and he said, when you don't have international players, you notice a big hole. The early weeks, we were training without Bruno Guimarães. You've put these blog entries in, and I'm all over the shop with reading them.
Oh, really? No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
No,
Do you want me to
I'll continue?
Okay.
It's because you've written BG there, and I'm like, oh, okay. Bruno Guimarães and the others. When he came back, everyone was lifted. He's got those qualities. I want to echo what Bruno says. We're desperate for success. He brings those special qualities that make us better. Do you think how confident Bruno is?
Yeah, 100%. It was unequivocal from Bruno. It was unequivocal from Howe, and I think the reason we know it was unequivocal because he said much similar stuff about Anthony Gordon, and he stopped short of saying it about Kieran Trippier. He spoke very highly of Trippier. He said he's came back in a good spot, but there was no outright commitment that he is here to stay. There was that with Bruno. There was that to an extent with Gordon, which we're going to go on to. So I think, Howe knows he's staying. Bruno knows he's staying, and we can all stop speculating as to City or Arsenal or any other club.
Well,
at least until next summer.
Do you think though, as much as he says he's happy, and we believe he is, he's laid down the mark, hasn't he? It's Champions League or bust.
Yeah, 100%. And he spoke about that again today. And it was just to go slightly off topic. Eddie Howe. Remember when Newcastle qualified for the Champions League 2 seasons ago, or they were on their way to qualify for the Champions League? Eddie Howe would not publicly talk about it. We quizzed him, we grilled him, we wanted him to say we're on our way there, and Eddie Howe just wouldn't talk about it. Even when they got over the line, it felt like Howe didn't want to talk about it. Bruno's been the opposite. His first interview with the club, they were in the relegation zone. He spoke out about wanting to play Champions League football. Today, we saw something much different because we saw Bruno saying, this season, we're just playing in the Premier League, so we're going to have a lot more time to train. Last December, we played 9 games in a month, so it was too much for our depleted squad. I want to be back in the Champions League, and I think not playing European football will give us that time to train and be focused in the league to get the club back in the Champions League. Now, how was asked straight after that, are you comfortable with Bruno saying this on the record? Are you comfortable with Darren Eales out in Japan saying we want to get back to the Champions League? Now, I was expecting a Eddie Howe answer of, well, I want to keep our targets internal and we want to finish as high as possible. But actually, to Howe's credit, he said, I'm very comfortable with those saying that. I think we have to have high expectations of ourselves and to push ourselves internally. And then, he said, the Champions League is the aim, which we don't usually hear him say. So I thought that was quite cool. You love it, you do, and it does have to be the aim. The club want to be number one, and it's good to see Howe is now, finally saying that that is the target internally as well.
I think if he didn't
Yeah.
say it, he'd be the only one, because
But-
we've said it, the
yeah.
fans know it.
But that question is usually teed up for how to hit back with such a how responsive.
Well, I'm looking at the rest of his quote. He does give a little typical how response. He says, "I think it's slightly different when you're in my position, because yes, you can have your targets, but nothing's going to be given to you."
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, "You have to earn the right to get that point, and we have a very difficult Premier League season ahead. Competition is so high, so we have to improve from last year. We've been working hard in pre-season to improve certain aspects of our play. Hopefully that shows by the time we kick off, and we can build consistency and confidence in our game early." But yes, he says, "I'm very comfortable with that Champions League expectation," which is great to hear that he's not shying away from it. Also, though, reaffirms the pressure that is there.
Yeah.
No one maybe wants to call it pressure, but I think there's no getting away from it. It is pressure.
Yeah.
It is Champions League or bust. But as Bruno said, and as we've all said, they've got a really good chance of getting there, because
Yeah.
teams around them haven't really strengthened too much, and they'll have busy schedules. If everyone stays fit, they add Mark Guehi in and then a winger, they've got an excellent chance of getting back into the top, or maybe the top 5 if their coefficients work in their favour. So absolutely superb to hear that Eddie Howe is not shying away from the expectations. He mentions there we've worked on certain aspects of our game that we've needed to improve on. What do you think those things are? What are let's say the top 3 things they needed to improve on?
Well, they definitely needed to fix the defense after last season. That was a problem that they really needed to sort first and foremost. And how actually, although he wouldn't give us any of it at all on Mark Guehi, he did go into depth about how they're certainly looking to strengthen at centre back. They feel like they're light in numbers. They feel like that area can be strengthened. So there's definitely that. I think secondly, they obviously needed to fix the injury problem, which they've obviously taken great strides to do, because they've brought in James Bunt, who's an absolute, master at his craft in that respect. And also, as you say, 1 game a week, 2 games a week max is going to be so crucial to them. And third, what else do they need to fix? I mean, I was going to say goal scoring, but they were fantastic at that last season.
I think just a bit of game management, seeing games out.
They need that nastiness back to them that we saw 2 seasons ago, but not so much last season.
Yeah,
they
definitely.
Need that streak.
Eddie Howe on the defence said we're slightly light on numbers. Emil Kraft has done a really good job during pre-season, playing inside from his normal full-back position, and he has the capability of doing that. We have very good players in there, but naturally, when you lose those 2 players for the length of time we have, i.e. Botman and Lascelles, that was a big dent in the middle of our defence. Then, just before his injury, was in a brilliant run of form. He just scored his first goal, and that was a real blow for us. And Jamal, who stepped in for Sven, was doing really well, and then we lose him as well. So just 2 huge losses. I think the lads that came in at the back end of last season did very well to play consistently and play consistently well, but it's certainly an area we're looking at.
That was the closest we got to Eddie Howe saying we want a centre back, because a lot of the transfer talk today was him talking about how they need outgoings, they need more income. They're still a little bit hamstrung by PSR and FFP. That was and obviously Mark Guehi, I'm sure people have seen already the response we got to the Mark Guehi question, which was the shortest answer of the afternoon. In the sense that he said there's no update to give you on that. Mark Guehi, by the way, is training with Crystal Palace. He was back yesterday. He was back on the training pitch today with Palace. We know that a fee hasn't yet been agreed for him, but hopefully they can move that in the right direction before Southampton. So that answer there, the last line, it's certainly an error we're looking at, was the best we got in terms of a centre back news, I'd say.
I think Palace held an open training session today, so it would have been on view for everyone to see. And look, yes, okay, the deal hasn't progressed maybe as quick as some would have liked, but I think the understanding is that Palace want a replacement in before they sell Guehi, who, although we understand wants to come to Newcastle United, he's not going to push the move. So if it does fall apart, and we hope it doesn't, we've got no reason to believe it will do, he's not going to kick off at that. So Palace are actually in quite a strong position.
Huge.
They're happy in certain aspects to let that star man go, because they're going to get a good price from a good profit for him. But they're being sensible, like you'd expect them to, by not letting him go unless they've got a replacement, and that's what's holding the deal up.
Absolutely, and I can guarantee that the questions that people have sent in that we're going to get to at the end are going to be asking about Guehi and are we concerned? But as you've just hit the nail on the head there, Palace hold the cards here, and yes, that maybe might be concerning and frightening to other people, but you get the feeling Newcastle really want this done.
I don't think it's concerning. I think it's just sensible from Palace, and you've got to have a bit of respect then and understand, because it was the other way around. the first thing Newcastle United fans would be saying, say if it was Sven Botman, for instance, as well.
Yeah.
You can't let him go until you've got a replacement. That's just what Palace do. They're just looking after their own, and they've got their 2 targets in mind. I think a deal will come probably over the weekend for one of those, and then we will see Guehi and move quite quickly in the being before Southampton, I think.
Very, very positive. That's what we like to hear.
Good. Do you think Howe is sounding better? He's looking better. He's feeling better about the whole situation in Newcastle United in comparison to what we saw in Germany?
I mean, look, it's probably nearly a month, just shy of a month to the day that we heard Howe give his first interview this summer, and we all sort of sat back and said,
"Oh, hello.
Okay, maybe everything isn't okay behind the scenes." He seemed in a very good mood today. I think he's very happy to be back on Tyneside with the players. They're looking forward to trying to get some minutes into the legs this weekend. By all accounts, it seems like it's working with Mitchell behind the scenes. A move for Guehi would only move to strengthen that relationship, I'm sure. He seemed relaxed. He seemed fine. He seems confident that they're going to get deals done. He did stress, as I've mentioned, they don't have this endless pot. They're very, very... what's the word? They're very, very aware of PSR and not, overspending. But he seemed fine. He seemed good. I think he's just a man who wants the Premier League season to start.
Very eager to get it started, and it will come around and over in the next week. Looking forward to it. Kieran Trippier then, he said, I don't think Kieran is openly looking to leave. He's been very good in training this week. Come back with an ambition to fight for his place, like every player does when he comes back for pre-season, fully committed. Is that all he said?
No, there was more on Trippier, but I think it would probably help if we did the Trippier questions in order they came in, because the first one came in and it was, to start, it was the questions that were being asked were, Howe made it clear he thinks they need to sell. He is expecting some first team exits this month. Asked about Trippier coming back, he said, I see him as a huge part of the team and the squad going forward. But as I said earlier, there'll always be the possibility that anyone could leave. And you see the difference there between the Bruno and the Gordon answer. So I won't talk individually about any players, but naturally with incomings, there will be outgoings as well. Now, I just thought, okay. Then after that, we had... a little bit of a follow-up from Simon Bird at the Mirror, who said, just sort of on outgoings, Howe said, what I mean by that is I don't literally mean everyone has a for sale sign on their head. I think that was in response to a question about Isak, Bruno and Gordon being available for the right price. He said, we are still in a position where financial fair play will be affecting our decision-making. We want to keep our best players. We'll fight tooth and nail to do that. But that doesn't mean that there won't be outgoings of certain players, because there has to be. He then went on to say, I don't think Kieran Trippier is openly looking to leave. He's been very good in training. He's come back with ambition to fight for his place. Again, very telling, because, I've said Kieran Trippier is the first choice right back when he comes in. Maybe that's not the case. Like every player does when he comes back pre-season, he's been fully committed. Now you compare that to what he said on Gordon. You compare that to what he said to Bruno.
The door is very open.
The door is very much open, and I hate the fact it's open, because everybody knows my view on it. I want Kieran Trippier to stay. And by the way, the reports that have came out in the last 24 hours about West Ham sniffing around a deal, would not like that.
Yeah, well,
if he wants to go to Saudi,
let him go to West Ham.
But really?
Yeah.
Come on, no.
Let him go to West Ham.
If I'm honest, I don't want to go to Saudi. I don't want to leave the football club. But if he does, I want him in the Saudi Pro League, where I don't have to. He's out of sight, he's out of mind. I don't want to be watching him week in, week out, especially not at St James's Park in somebody else's colours. Really, you'd be happy with him going to West Ham?
Yeah,
strengthening a rival?
I've got no... I think
Livramento... You've turned on Trippier so easily.
I haven't.
He's gone from being the best in the business to...
No, it's a
to behind Emil Kraft in the pecking order.
It's just a respectful viewpoint on where he's at, and I wouldn't have any qualms about him going to West Ham. I think he'd do a good job, but I think I'd rather get the wage bill down. I'd rather get a bit of cash in from.
Yeah, well, we don't need to reopen this can of worms, because we've had enough highly charged discussions about it. But very telling from Howe today. And I think,
did we have a bet on Livramento? Did we put anything on Livramento being first choice? I should have done, shouldn't I?
No, yeah, we did, but we won't. So,
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Kieran Trippier. And just in general, I mean, the press conference, what was the feeling like? What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, good. As I say, Bruno's on really good form. You know, his first answer was literally that answer about him thinking he was going to pass away on the training pitch in Japan on his first day, which cracked Howe up. As we've just talked about a minute ago, Howe seemed relaxed. It seemed good. A world away from, you know, what it seemed like it was in Germany when he was, you know, talking about the relationship. There was none of that today. There was no talk of England. There was just talk of, you know, big players being settled, Howe being happy. They're working to get stuff done behind the scenes. They're, you know, openly admitting that players will need to go. You know, there was no mention today of Dubravka, but you suspect he'll be one. He was asked about Isaac Hayden and Ryan Fraser. He said they're both back with us, but he's got no update. And he also spoke about Trayvon Sanusi, who is going to train with them this week. We'll probably see him this weekend. And he says Trayvon Sanusi is going to be in and around the first team a lot more regularly. Which gets the sound that he isn't going to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Is he going to be the next Miley? But look, on the whole, very positive. And yeah.
No sense of panic or anything?
No, not at all.
We've got a few questions, and then to finish off the show, just jot down the email address if you ever do want to get in touch. The EIBW podcast at reachplc.com. This one from Marcus, who says, regarding the need to sell to buy if the Guehi deal does go through, I think more people are beginning to understand that in a PSR world, all things are fluid. Does the immediate need to sell to buy change if a commercial deal is done, i.e. training kit, ground sponsor? The club have shown a streak of times to grab the players they want if the deal becomes advantageous, like Gordon. But that probably wasn't ideal to spend 45 million when we did, but we got a player that Newcastle United have tracked for a while.
Yeah, look, I think that is probably the case, and I think, you know, as we've tried to explain in the last half an hour or so, Eddie Howe today, the only real negative, was it a negative? But the only real sort of, yeah, I'll go negative. The only really negative answers we got from him was the fact that Newcastle are still in a position that they need to sell. Now, look, if they had a training kit sponsor agreed and over the line by now, the pressure would have eased. If they'd sold the naming rights to St James's Park by now, the pressure would have eased. If they'd had a few more sponsorships over the line, they probably wouldn't be in a position where they had to sell. But then I think also, you know, if they do go out and spend 60 million on Mark Guehi, potentially more, if they do go out and spend a big chunk of money on a right winger, they're going to need to sell. And I don't think that's changed. Somebody did mention it on Twitter the other day and said, you know, what? How's this narrative changed on the pod that they suddenly need to sell? I think that's always been the case, but I think it's just more prominent now that they are, you know, really looking to spend 65 million on a central defender. They're going to have to sell.
And they might have a bit more money than we all suspect, given that them new sponsors were on the board. So you don't know what's going on in the background. Eric says, do you think Isaac has a realistic chance at the Golden Boot this season? Now he missed out on it last term. This season we have no European campaign to contend with. So you would assume Isaac starts 38 Premier League games as long as he's fit. There's a hopeful man. Couple that with Wilson's injury record and Osula's inexperience, I think he will see the maximum player time. Do you think he will pip Haaland to the boot this term?
I mean, look, we are talking about a freak of nature in Erling Haaland, but he was 6 off Haaland last season. He played one game fewer. He played 30. Haaland played 31. Look, never say never. And look, I think he's definitely got a chance. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, okay. We will revisit that one in May. Jonas Ackelblom on Twitter says, what is needed to make this into a good transfer window? I say a top centre-back and a top right wing arrival that instantly improves the first 11.
I think Jonas has answered his own question there, because I think let's say they get Guehi in, let's say they get a first choice right winger in. I think you look back at this window and think they've ticked every single box that they needed to do. They brought in a third choice striker, they've had an upgrade at right wing, and they've strengthened the defence with 2 really good centre halves. Now, this obviously depends on who they lose between now and September, but I think on the face of it, you couldn't grumble with that window, could you?
Well, Lauren Roberto says it's known that we're in for a right wing, but what indication is there that that's actually the case? Lots of links, but nothing solid. Is this fan-led, he asks, or are Newcastle United actually in the market for a right winger?
I think Eddie Howe's comments today, and I do actually get that person's comment, because, you know, there has been very few concrete links this summer, but I think Howe's quotes today suggest that the reason they signed Osula for so little is because they need to strengthen, not just at centre-back, they need to strengthen in a couple of places. And anybody can say that right wing is one of those places.
Can you just pronounce his name?
Laurent Roberto.
Good. You got to get this 3 O's on the end there.
Roberto.
Good. Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting with Osula, though, and the club actually made a point in their introduction on the website that he can play both flanks. Not like you can read too much into that. They're just pointing out maybe the obvious. But, I mean, could we see a scenario where it is Almiron, Murphy,
Osula, Sanusi
for the right? That
Maybe.
wouldn't please a lot of people.
Anyone.
But, you know, if they can't find the funds or they can't find the right player for the right price.
Well, we've talked all summer, haven't we, about how Howe wants a right winger who can play through the middle, and it's the same for a striker who can play out wide. He wants versatile players. He got that in Gordon, he got that in Isak, he's got that in Osula. But you'd have to think that is that enough? I don't know. I think fans will point the fact it's not enough. They need a real, as we said for weeks, they need a big shiny outlay at right wing. I don't think it's enough, but yeah, maybe that is the thought that they're going down.
I'm going to get through another episode without mentioning the certain name of someone on the right wing, but it's got to be him. It's got to be him. I'm not going to mention. I've had too many tweets telling us to shut up about him. We've got a couple of questions, as you suspected we would do on Guehi. We've got Leslie and Daniel both asking about him. Leslie says, "Are you worried about Guehi?" And Daniel says, "How close are Newcastle honestly to signing him?"
On the first question, I'm not worried. I think the only reason I would be worried is if Crystal Palace were coming out and really briefing that he was staying, and if Eddie Howe had played it down. Yes, he didn't give us an update today, but I think he gave us enough to suggest that, you know, they're really after a big centre half. I'm not concerned at all because obviously Guehi wants to come. He's spoken of his admiration for the club, for the stadium. He's got a really close pal in Anthony Gordon, which, as we've touched on, will help him be happy at the club. The only thing, you know, to have maybe slight concern over is the fact that they haven't agreed a fee. Will it get to the stage where Newcastle think, you know, the window is coming to a close, we really need this centre half over the line, we're going to have to go to maybe a club who are going to be a bit more receptive to an offer like that? But I'm not concerned. I think it will get done. You know, at the minute we know a fee isn't agreed. We think a second offer hasn't gone in yet, but there's plenty of time.
I think a fee will be agreed by Monday. I think he'll be on Tyneside by Monday.
The Monday show?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll move that quickly. I'm not positive.
I like the positivity this afternoon, though.
I think everything's just kind of nearly in place. They're just looking for that replacement. So I think by Monday, we'll be at least at the advanced talk situation. I think that's actually even further. I think he'll be on Tyneside for a medical. Just finally, Sela Cup this weekend. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Eddie Howe made it clear today that we're probably going to see everyone, and we're probably going to see everyone for, you know, a good chunk of the game. He wants to get that final. He wants to get those final sort of preparations in before the season starts. Hopefully, everything crossed that it goes off without a hitch and there's nothing in the city centre. One set of quotes we haven't actually touched on from Howe is that he spoke about it today. Okay. He was asked by one of the broadcast journalists what his message was, and he says, "Newcastle, as you say, is my home, and no one associated with Newcastle wants to see trouble on the weekend on the streets. I hope there's no confrontations and no aggressive scenes. We want to promote inclusivity for everyone connected with Newcastle, and we want to see the place respected in the way it should be." And I don't think we could have put it better ourselves. So hopefully it goes off without a hitch, and yeah, hopefully we see 3 cracking games of football.
I think Eddie Howe has summed it up absolutely perfectly there. And yeah.
And he gets it, doesn't he? He gets the city.
That's because of the friendly nature of Geordies, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, very true.
So fingers crossed, any protests which do happen on Saturday don't turn violent and don't turn into vandalism. And the game does go ahead, which we think it will do. And it'll be a wonderful weekend of football for Newcastle United. It'll be a wonderful weekend for lots of young families going into the ground, potentially for the only time this season because of the demand for tickets. So hopefully it's a wonderful weekend of football. 3 big games, the women as well against AC Milan. Wonderful test there for them, and their campaign will soon get underway as well, which is going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do at the next level with some tremendous signings as well. Really big year for them to come, and a big year for Newcastle United. And it's good to get a word from Eddie Howe on pretty much everything.
Yeah, and good to get some positivity before the season, isn't it?
Fantastic. Well, if you're off to the Sela Cup, enjoy it. Me and Aaron will be back for the Monday show in a few days' time, hopefully celebrating victory and once again lifting the Sela Cup and then spotting good old Mark Guehi down in Jesmond after he's had his medical. This has been the Monday show on the Thursday. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Head over to chroniclelive.co.uk for all the latest Newcastle United news. Like I say, for myself and Aaron, we'll see you guys very, very soon.